There are a lot of different addictions, from minor ones to grave ones, that can lead to spiritual and material demise. Today, we will talk about how fasting, intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting, is the ultimate antidote to all addictions. In my earlier Panch Pratyahar lectures, I have talked about abnegation. And pratyahara doesn't only mean the abnegation of ahar or food, but abnegation of all the sensual desires which are leading to bondage. Manhi manushyanam karan bandham mokshayo bandhaya vishaya suktam muktam nirvishaya smratam. Amrit Bindu Upanishad. So the mind is the cause for both bondage and liberation. When engrossed with the vishayas, or the objects of sensual gratification, it becomes bound because it is dependent on the repeated exposures to dopamine pleasure. And when it has abnegated itself from the objects of sensual gratification, the vishaya or the indriyartheshu, then the mind is the conduit for liberation. So Krishna himself has said, among the senses I am the mind, because mind is superior to the senses. And the senses slowly and gradually can sometimes subvert the superiority of the mind and lead to downfall, addictions, attachments, all things that are leading to bondage in this life and repeated reincarnations. So today, in general, you have heard me say about addictions. There are different kinds. The ones that commonly come to the mind are addiction of overeating, smoking, drinking, gambling, gaming, trading for people in stock market, over trading, day trading, and sex addiction. Those are the main addictions that I have mentioned in the past. And you can project these as formations from the Mahabhut, if you think about it. But mostly these are states of bondage of the mind. Repeated exposure. Dhyaito vishyan punsa sangesh teshu upjayate. Sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodha bijayate. 262 Bhagavad Gita. It teaches us that repeated rumination, contemplation about an object or vishaya leads to sangesh teshu or sanga, attachment. Sangat sanjayate kama. The attachment itself gives rise to desire. Kamat krodha bijayate. When you obtain it, you get greedy. When you don't obtain what you are looking for, you get frustrated and angry. Krodh and Kam. Kam, Krodh are the two main modalities of rajas that are destructive in nature. Kamesh, Krodhesh, Rajogun Samadbhava, Mahashano Mahapap Mahavedyanam Iveranam. The papa or the sin arises from Kam and Krodh. And Kam and Krodh themselves arise from Sangha or attachment. So, Dhyaito Vishyan Punsa Sangesh Teshu Upjayate. The repeated contemplation. Contemplation of what? The attachment of Indriya with the Indriyartheshu. The object with the object of sensual gratification. The Vishaya with the Indriya. That is the attachment we are talking about here. Can be innocuous, insidious, gradual, while we are just doing our day-to-day activities. You don't even think about it and start munching on a chocolate, and next thing you know, you are addicted to the chocolate. You don't even know, you just want your morning caffeine. Otherwise, you cannot function through the day. Even if you don't get caffeine one day, coffee one day, you feel like enormous withdrawal, caffeine withdrawal headaches. So see how we have made our senses slave to the vishaya or the objects that are going to gratify them in the short term, and building attachment and building bonds of slavery by the release of pleasure molecule dopamine, which does not bring peace, just brings pleasure, brings peaceless pleasure. That is the quality of senses, the kind of gratification or happiness, if you want to call it, that is provided by the senses. So now you know that repeated exposure of the senses to the objects of sensual gratification, tongue to the food, nose to the aroma, eyes to the sight, ears to the music, and skin to the touch, leads to attachment. And while sometimes these are required objects to protect the identity of the ego, biological life, because without ego, life is not possible. When you are not being haunted by a deadly force that is going to kill you, then these senses which were supposed to protect start enjoying, and that is where the problem starts. So senses should be kept at the rudimentary level to sustain the life, to protect us from any and every calamity that can destroy biological life and destroy the prana that is living in the jiva. So let's talk about the treatment for these addictions. Know that the ultimate Mahabhut is Bhu or Prithvi, because from ether arises air, from air arises fire, from fire arises water, and from water arises earth, Bhu, Dhara, Dharti, Bhumi. And Bhu is related to the sense of smell, Ghrana. And Jal, Jal, not Nal. Nal is Ag. Jal is related to Rasa or taste. And Nal is related to the form of fire. And air is related to touch. And ether is related to Dhwani or sound. That is why sound is the first sense that you develop in the fetus, just like Abhimanyu in Subhadra's womb. And sound or sense of hearing is the last sense that you lose when you're dying. So in that sequence, the most sensual Mahabhut, the heaviest Mahabhut, the most dependence creating Mahabhut is Bhu, which is earth. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad ansambhava. Annad bhavanti bhutani. The anna or the grains, food, comes from Bhu, from rains, which is rasa of water. And rasa of water comes from yagya. So the karma, ultimate karma, is yagya. Yagya dan tapo karma tyajamiti karmevyat. Yagya dan and tap, you should never leave. And today, in terms of austerity, we are talking about tapa, or the austerity of abnegation, the pratyahara, the panch pratyahara. So, you have understood now 2 points. First point, senses create bondage by attachment through dopamine, by attaching to the indriya, to the indriyartheshu. Second, the most sensual element is Bhu or earth. So the addiction that is, you can call it a need, but it becomes an addiction that is most captivating, that is most tormenting to most individuals, that we don't even talk about because there is no stigma associated with it, is food. All of you are eating more than you need to. No need to eat 3 times a day if you are trying to be a yogi. Because for your dhyana to work, the stomach has to be empty. And that is one of the main reasons why Brahma Muhurat Dhyana is awesome, because you have overnight fasting from sleeping. So whenever you are doing dhyana, to augment the effects, to augment the benefits that you can reap from dhyana, you have to make sure that your stomach is empty. Otherwise, you will have blood drawing into the gut and there will be some lethargy, sleepy. You cannot focus with your stomach full. You can only sleep well with your stomach full. So, food is the ultimate addiction that we are not even knowing that all of us are addicted. I'm not talking about the Overeaters Anonymous. I'm not talking about people who binge eat. I'm talking about regular people eating more food than they need to. And that is the reason most people in the developed world, like US, are suffering because of excess of food, excess of obesity related to, of course, harmful foods, processed foods, hormonal foods, but in general, more cravings leading to more eating. So, the first step in treating your addiction, and I don't even care what your addiction is, smoking, drinking, gambling, gaming, trading, sex, any of those, is to cut back on the number of meals and the amount of food that you are eating. You can do 5:2 diet. You can do 24-hour fast depending upon your capabilities. But whatever you do, make sure you are eating lesser quantities and less frequently. That is the first step and the most profound step that will help you declutter your mind and declutter the senses, and thereafter you will have more consciousness and awareness to tackle your debility, tackle your weakness of sensual addiction. So most people wonder if, when we talk about addictions, what is the most profound addiction? It is alcoholism? Is it sex addiction? Is it nicotine addiction of smoking? Is it gaming, playing video games 24 hours a day? Is it compulsively day trading all day, not making money, but just trading because you are bored? Well, the most primal addiction is food, which you eat more than you should. And that is why the Native Americans, they never ate 3 times a day. This is the culture that we have created in the Western European societies, that you have to be cultured. You have to eat 3 times a day at specified times. No. We have to eat when we are hungry. We have to let the hunger pangs form in the stomach. Just like any animal, they don't eat at, lion does not eat at 8 o'clock breakfast, 12 o'clock lunch and nighttime dinner. He will eat when he's hungry. He will go for it when he's hungry. So we have to, and we are a glorified animal, we have to eat when we are hungry and not force feed ourselves all day just because we have prosperity and availability of food. Ati sarvatra varjayet. Excess of anything is bad. So if you want to counter your addiction, start by cutting your food. If you are upset with yourself, if you are constantly engaged in some addiction, try to cut out food from your life. Less food, less is more. The lesser you eat healthy, organic, plant-based diet, fruits and vegetables, high fiber foods, soups, depending on your body constitution. Obviously, you have to eat more raw if you are a pitta body, eat more cooked if you are a vata body, eat more pungent and fermented foods if you are a kapha body. But try to eat foods which are mostly of plant origin, because there is no cruelty, and limit the amount that you eat. These 2 things you have to do: decrease the amount and the frequency of food, so that you are slowly getting a handle on your addiction. Lust does not even hold a candle to hunger. When you are hungry, you will commit things which you cannot even imagine. History is bearing testimony to the fact that, for instance, in Virginia, back in the day, in 1600s, there was a cannibalism committed because there was extreme famine. So a human being can eat a human being because they are so desperate. There is no food. And there is so much of ingrained need for food that we take for granted on a daily basis from the moment we are born, from the cradle to the grave, that we just don't realize that it could be a problem. So try to abstain from food at least once a week. Give yourself a break. Then you'll realize the value of food. The rasa in the food will be more. You will be more grateful. And of course, as Gita says, any food that you partake, first offer it to your Ishta Devta, because they are the ones who are giving you the food to enjoy your senses and to keep the biological life going. So my friends, in short, senses create addiction. The most sensual Mahabhut is Bhu, and the Bhu or earth gives rise to food. Annat Jayanti Bhutani. So the food is the most insidious, addicting thing, more than sex, gambling, trading, alcohol, nicotine or drugs. So try to limit the amount of food. Try to limit both the amount as well as the frequency that you eat. Once you curtail your food, you'll slowly gain a handle on whatever addiction you have, whatever misgivings you have, whatever you want to attain in life, but you are not finding enough courage or intention, motivation, dedication to obtain that. Once you cut out food, and it's kind of a virtuous cycle. The more you cut out food, the more purpose you find, more awareness you develop, the better you perform in whatever you're trying to attain. A hungry lion is always able to hunt better than a lion who has had a big meal and is going to sleep all day. So you don't want to be the tamasic sleeper who loses out on opportunities and the benefits of this human life. So get up, my friends, and try to limit your food intake. That is the most important component of Panch Pratyahara that I have talked about: abstaining food, water, doing exercises, kumbhak, as well as dhyana. The most important thing, and everything starts with food, because reverse engineering food coming from bhu is the most sensual, the deepest addiction that has to be curtailed, so that other addictions which we label and stigmatize as addictions will be curtailed by us once we understand that the basic necessity is food, and we have to worship the food and take it in limited amounts and not abuse the privilege of having a tongue and a stomach to be gorging in all the food. Hope you like this lecture. Please leave your comments below. Jai Shri Ram.